The American taxpayers are going to pay their way. You offer them $10 billion, they say, not enough. And I don't understand, this is taxpayer money, and this money can be used for rural broadband and other things, and I don't understand why you don't doing it by the book. I'm not the APA experts that you guys are. Say, okay, we hear you. Let me make you a new offer, $1 billion. And go read section, 326, that says we don't have to offer you any billion. And that's where I think we are. Now, that's not particularly politically astute. I understand there's some powerful players out there. You throw $77 billion in the middle of the ring, and the hogs are going to come from everywhere, all competing to be the tallest hog at the trough.
Hey everyone, welcome to Capital Insights. Let's dive into a fiery exchange that went down in the FSGG appropriations hearing. Senator John Kennedy grilled the FCC on billion-dollar decisions, taxpayer money, and insider trading allegations. Whether you follow politics, tech, or just love a good showdown, this one's got it all. Stay tuned because trust me, this affects all of us. And before we start, smash that subscribe button for more insightful breakdowns.
So they ought to be happy with that. They're not being kicked out of the C-band. They're just moving to another part. The American taxpayers are going to pay their way. You offer them $10 billion, they say, not enough. And I don't understand, this is taxpayer money, and this money can be used for rural broadband and other things, and I don't understand why you don't doing it by the book. I'm not the APA experts that you guys are. Say, okay, we hear you. Let me make you a new offer, $1 billion. And go read section, 326, that says we don't have to offer you any billion. And that's where I think we are. Now, that's not particularly politically astute. I understand there's some powerful players out there. You throw $77 billion in the middle of the ring, and the hogs are going to come from everywhere, all competing to be the tallest hog at the trough. I get that. But if you're going to be sued anyway, I don't understand why you don't just get tough. If you do the auction, and I know you will, and I know you'll do it by December 8th, can one big company, wireless company, come in and take all of it down, or are you going to try to make sure it's fairly dispersed, including to the smaller companies? Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate the question, Senator. First, I want to stress that these accelerated relocation payments and relocation payments generally are paid by carriers, not by taxpayers.
No, wait, Ajit. Money is fungible. For every penny that they give that supposedly goes to the incumbents is a penny less than the American taxpayer gets. Don't try that one on me. I mean, money is fungible, okay? Every penny that is paid in incentive payments, so technically by Verizon to Intelsat, is money coming from the American taxpayer. So that dog's not going to hunt.
Secondly, Senator, with respect, we believe that these payments would enlarge the size of the pie, so to speak. They're necessary to make the auction more successful by increasing the time value of the spectrum to would-be bidders.
I get it. We may just have to disagree on this, okay? I just think you can get a better deal. I know you can get a better deal. But are you going to, are the auction rules such that one big company can come in and buy it all?
We opened it to competition from everybody. We specifically picked partial economic areas as a geographic area, which limits the amount of areas that can be aggregated quickly. The bigger carriers wanted economic areas, which are huge parts of geographic zones. So one of the reasons we chose PEAs was to enable some of the smaller rural carriers to participate. We're not going to game the auction in advance like some people wanted and say, these people are going to win and put our thumb on the scale. We believe in the free market. We don't believe in picking winners and losers before the auction's even held.
Madam Commissioner.
Yes, we used to have pre-auction aggregation limits, which would limit the ability of one carrier to sweep in and take it all away. We did not choose to do that here, and I think that's a mistake and could lead to the kind of problem you were alluding to.
What is the consequence of not doing that?
Well, it's a lot easier for the biggest companies to come in, spend money, take their spectrum away, and consumers, as a result, will see less competition. And less competition means higher prices and less innovation.
What do you say to the argument that the best way to have real pure competition is just let everybody bid what they want, if they want?
Well, we've got a lot of very, very big companies with a lot of resources who can spend a lot of money. I'd like to see some smaller companies get in the mix too, so our markets get more competitive, more interesting, and more likely to deliver innovative services to consumers.
Okay. Will the commission be talking about that issue more? I assume among yourselves you'll be discussing the pros and cons of that.
Well,
Yes,
Senator, what we
Commissioner.
adopted in the decision was not carte blanche to any provider to obtain this and any other mid-band spectrum they want. We put a process in place on the back end. We're going to do a competition case-by-case review, and if one provider does have too much mid-band or other spectrum, we in the decision laid out that we'll run a process and we'll analyze the actual impacts of that rather than on the front end trying to set an arbitrary limit.
Okay. Let me ask you one last question.
First, let's talk about the C-band alliance. This group of satellite operators dissolved, but that hasn't ended the drama. Kennedy pointed out that litigation is almost a guarantee, with smaller satellite operators already planning to sue. His message? Stop worrying about lawsuits, they're inevitable. Focus on doing what's right. Here's where Kennedy turned up the heat. He questioned why the FCC is offering $10 billion in relocation payments to satellite operators. According to him, these satellites are old and need replacing anyway. So why spend taxpayer dollars on something they should already be doing? He's calling for smarter spending with a focus on rural broadband and public priorities. Next up, the FCC's auction rules. Kennedy isn't convinced they're fair. He's worried one massive company could sweep in and grab all the spectrum, leaving smaller players and by extension U.S. consumers at a disadvantage. Less competition? That's bad news for prices and innovation. Do you think these rules are fair? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into stories that matter.
There have been some allegations of insider trading made. On November the 5th, the FCC senior counsel met with Intelsat's chief executive. The next day, when the stock was trading at, I want to say around 24, a huge block was sold at around 24, as I said, a $246 million block. Today, the stock, I don't know, it's not trading at 24 bucks, I know that. What's this about?
Senator, this is the first I've heard of that. I don't know what that's referring to or what you might be reading from.
Well, it's been in the paper. The saga kicked off in November when Intelsat's chief executive, Steven Spengler, met with the FCC senior counsel, Nicholas Degani, I apologize if I mispronounced the name, to discuss Intelsat's plan to sell spectrum in a deal that had been expected to result in a $7.4 billion payout to the company. That meeting occurred on November 6th. On November 6th, a 10 million share block of Intelsat stock was sold. Commissioner?
Yeah, first, I dissented on this, so I didn't participate in any of these dialogues, and I'm not familiar with them. But it demonstrates the fundamental problem here is that proceeding like we are is devolving the FCC's spectrum reallocation and repurposing into let's make a deal. We need a standard from Congress, so we do this fairly, openly, and transparently, not just in the C-band, but in all spectrum going forward.
Anybody else on this? I'm not suggesting that any of you are involved in this. I just want to know what happened. Is it normal that your general counsel meets with, I assume you have meetings all the time?
I also dissented and know nothing about this, Mr. Chairman, but this gives me some deep concern.
Senator, to be clear, I'm not aware of any insider trading allegation involving
I'm not
Mr.
either.
Degani
I
or
just said
anyone else at the
allegation.
FCC.
You need to look at this.
I'd be happy to take a look at it, but the notion that either approving or dissenting of an order has anything whatsoever to do with an allegation of the type you're describing is repugnant. And I definitely would be happy to take a look at whatever allegation is, but I want to strongly defend the conduct both of the commission staff, including Mr. Degani, and our career staff that have worked tirelessly on this entire effort in the public interest, not in any private interest whatsoever.
Well, just to be clear, I don't know what happened. I'm not saying anything happened. I'm just saying that the news media, here's the article, Intelsat's biggest investors sold shares just before massive stock plunge. And this is from, I don't know where it's from, but anyway, I've read 10 or 20 articles about it. And supposedly there was a meeting between the president of the company and the FCC general counsel on November 5th and November 6th. A huge block went for sale, sold at around 24, and shortly thereafter, the bottom fell out of the stock. I'm not making any allegations. I'm just asking you what's going on, if you know.
Well, so this sounds like private conduct, which would be the purview of the Securities and Exchange Commission, not conduct involving an FCC employee, as I understand the story you're talking about.
Well, except the story says it was your general counsel that met.
Well, Senator, we'd be happy to produce ex partes documenting that in every other meeting any satellite company has had with all 4 or 5 commissioners. There have been many of them,
Yeah.
and to link them to any type of story that of the type you're referring
I'm
to.
not making any allegations. I'm just asking what happened. You might ought to look into it. We'll be having another hearing. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you especially for doing a public auction. We came this close to giving away $60 to $80 billion. This close. And I know a lot of you got a lot of pressure. And I want to thank you for doing the right thing. I think we could do better than the $10 billion. You know how I feel. I understand Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm not sitting in your seat. I'm just saying that the pressure I've received and the arguments I keep hearing are that you're holding up 5G because the satellite companies are going to litigate. You're going to get sued anyway. You always get sued. This is nothing different. And the issue is not whether you're going to be sued, it's whether they can get an injunction. And they're not going to get an injunction. So if they're not happy with $10 billion, make them a counteroffer. $1 billion. Thanks again. We'll do this another time and talk about some of the other issues. I'm repeating myself, but including Commissioner O'Reilly, who I hope will come next time. And I didn't mean to offend him by not including him. You're all a bunch of smart people, and I thank you for your public service.
This part raised eyebrows. Kennedy brought up allegations of insider trading involving FCC staff and Intelsat. He cited a suspicious timeline. The FCC met with Intelsat, and the very next day, a massive stock sale occurred. The stock plummeted shortly after. Kennedy didn't accuse anyone directly but demanded answers about what really happened. Now, this might fall under the SEC's purview, but Kennedy is right. Transparency is key. What do you think? Is this just bad timing or something bigger? So what's the big takeaway? Senator Kennedy's questioning highlighted concerns about taxpayer dollars, fair competition, and transparency. The FCC's decisions on spectrum allocation impact us all, from our broadband speeds to our monthly bills. We need accountability, and hearings like this ensure these questions don't go unanswered. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive into stories that matter. See you in the next one.